Hello.
How's it going? Everybody having fun today so far? Tora-Con! Welcome to the Psycho-Pass panel. And I'm assuming we'll also turn it into whatever we want it to be over the course of the panel as well. Do you want to introduce yourself first?
No, you go ahead.
Okay.
You're wielding the mic.
Okay. Hi, my name is Josh Grelle. I'm a voice actor for Funimation Entertainment, ADV Films, Okratron 5000, a whole bunch of really awesome and fun places. For Psycho-Pass, I play the voice of Ginoza.
Hello, my name is Cherami Leigh. I'm also an actor, voice actor person. I work for Aniplex, Viz, Funimation. Really anybody who wants to give me a job, I'll work there. And in Psycho-Pass, I played Mika. Controversial character, I found out.
Pretty much. She's kind of, and I think we have Akane Tsunemori joining us. Hello, Akane. Please do not bring the Dominator out during the panel. I don't think anyone here's Psycho-Pass is above 300.
Somebody gave me one to hold at a convention. Somebody gave me one to hold at a convention 2 weekends ago.
That's awesome.
I took a picture.
Yeah? I want to see that later. So this is a Psycho-Pass panel. I guess, do we have any sort of like fun stories, or do we have any questions like right out of the box? Anybody have a question that they want to ask? Please don't be shy. We don't bite.
He has a question up in the back corner.
Yes.
With the hat.
How do you guys treat schizophrenic psychopaths?
I really appreciate your projection, first and foremost.
How do we treat schizophrenics in Psycho-Pass? In the show?
Yes.
So like us personally, or our character?
Makes
Okay.
it more entertaining.
Well, it depends on what their Psycho-Pass level is. I mean, if they're schizophrenic, but they're still below, like, what, 150, 200, something like that, then, you know, they're still technically okay. So I guess I'd be fine with them. Sometimes I think I'm kind of schizophrenic anyway, so I guess I can't really be judgy.
Yeah, totally.
But, hey, if there was over 300, then, you know, boom, dead.
I, as Cherami, feel like that I too can't be judgmental, as I think everybody's like mental state is all relative in a way. We wouldn't have any means of measuring anyone's mental stability without a like whatever somebody determines as being normal.
That baseline.
And I am not normal. So I don't know how I could like, I'm like, well, it says you're schizophrenic, but I can't be crazy about it. My character, on the other hand, not a fan. She does not tolerate anyone who is potentially going to be an issue or break the rules, and she's very, she likes the rules, but she's very much a, I think she's pretty skeptical or concerned about anyone and everyone. She doesn't trust anybody.
No.
Except for maybe one person.
Maybe one.
Maybe.
Potentially. It's not even 100%
It's
certain.
not even guaranteed. Maybe season 3 will know.
Potentially. Or the movie.
Ooh.
I know, I can't wait for the movie.
So that's official.
That is official, like, yeah, they're doing a Psycho-Pass movie. Like, I don't know if I don't know if Funny's got the
we don't
rights
know
or
if
anything.
We're doing
Yeah,
it,
we don't know if we're
but
doing
the
it.
world is getting it.
Yes, the world is getting a Psycho-Pass movie.
Which means we can still watch it.
Yes, I love the fact that the schizophrenic question is how we start this off, because that means we started it off right. So thank you, sir. Any follow-up questions? Or just any new questions in general?
How do you feel about bipolar?
What do you believe your personal psychopath is?
Ooh, good question.
That's awesome. I don't know if I would be over a 300, but I'm definitely not normal. It's not green or blue, whatever the haze is. They don't want it to go. They want to keep it green, right? Or they want to keep it blue?
They want to keep it light color. Forget
Want to keep it
color.
white? Okay. Okay, don't want to. Okay, yeah. So I'm definitely in a gray area, maybe on the darker side of gray.
That totally is going to depend on the day. Because if you ask me that, if I'm recording a character, then I don't know. Or if I'm stuck in traffic, I don't know.
Especially LA traffic.
Yeah, LA traffic is awful. Dallas traffic on 635 is not great either.
No, it's not.
That'll make anybody question their psychopath level. I think in general I'm probably in the gray area because I just like to live my life in the gray area, metaphorically speaking. I don't know, I don't think I'm too insane.
2.
It's all relative.
Yeah, exactly.
What is insane?
Just insane enough.
It's got really deep.
Yeah.
This is why I like the show, first of all, because
It makes you
there is
question.
no right, there is no wrong. And as soon as you think you figured it out, the show's like, oh, sorry, what now? Here's an ear.
And yeah, the second season got really brutal.
Oh, God.
It got real brutal. Another question. Any other second? So what was? I know that your character was first introduced in the first season.
Yeah.
She was a student,
Yeah.
and ended up having someone that she knew.
Which was
being-
insane.
Yeah.
We thought it was just, okay, in the first season, my character is just a student who, Brina's character is going around killing people. Like Brina's characters usually do. And we were all at a girls' school. You guys have all seen the show or whatever, but if you haven't, Cliff Notes version. I was the chatty witness, and so when Zach said he cast that, he was like, this one talks a lot? Sure. This one does this. So that's how he picked who everybody was going to be, and the joke was on him because I came back.
Hey, yeah. With an attitude.
Yeah. Like, as season 2 progressed, I'm like, dude, you're new. Slow your roll.
Yeah, seriously.
She's like, I'm new here. I don't care.
So,
I run this
maybe
place.
a year.
Yeah.
But I know how it needs to be run.
And you're all wrong.
She'll get a reality check, I think, pretty quick.
I feel like she already did.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is, they were like, do you think that she's playing them? Like, trying to seem like she's, like, playing along to protect herself? Or is she really aware? Or is she really losing her mind?
Right. Maybe she's afraid. Maybe she's just scared.
I think it was, I mean, when you find out that everything you know is wrong, that's got to do some number on you. Like, oh, God, this is terrifying.
Yep.
I'm going to tread lightly. She should have started treading lightly.
Tread lightly. And it also, like, she, I think, represents what a majority of the people in that world feel about latent criminals.
For sure.
And even those that are helping, like even those like Ginoza in the second season, or like any of the enforcers, they're still considered latent criminals. So people look down on them, and they're treated like animals. They're treated like they are the dregs of society, even though they're helping.
Right. Well, and I feel like in some ways that is unfortunately, which I think I'm a pretty tolerant person and a pretty open-minded person. That's one of my favorite things about humanity in general is people that are open-minded. And she is not very open-minded, but she thinks she's doing it for the good of something else, which is something I can always hold on to, is I don't think anybody does anything just for the sake of being bad.
Right.
If they're doing something that is wrong, normally it's because they're like, well, I'm defending my mom, this happened to my... There's always a story.
Yeah.
Everybody has a story.
There's always an inspiration.
Yeah.
And then that's the other thing too, is, then you have to get into the whole idea of what really is evil, what really is good, because then that is also relative.
Yeah.
Who decides what's bad and what's right and what's wrong.
And depending on people's experiences, someone could go, this is the worst possible thing you could ever do to someone. And someone else is like, no, I think this is, because this is what my family experienced. So it is completely relative. But what I think about Mika is, I think she represents probably like an overall general consensus of like an American population of somebody that's like, we're telling you that whoever they are, we're telling you that this is what you should believe, that this is right, that this is wrong. And I feel like she is somebody that totally bought into that. Whereas we have a bunch of, and she's a minority in Psychopaths, where we have a bunch of other like rebels or whatever on the outside going, I don't know, let me ask some questions, which depending on where you are in your circle of friends, that might not be the case.
No, and it could vary, and having any sort of dissent in that world could potentially lead to your hue being clouded.
Yeah, totally.
And that's always a thing. That's the other thing. You're living in a world that literally has the thought police.
Yeah.
It's a totalitarian.
Fahrenheit 451.
Yeah, exactly. Like so you always have that fear looming over you of I have to make sure, like not only do I have to behave right in the outside world, I have to make sure that everything I'm thinking falls in line with what they say is right. And that would stress anybody out. I think that would bring anybody to the breaking point eventually.
It also kind of reminds me of The Giver. Have you guys read The Giver? Not seen the movie.
Oh, the book.
Read the book, the entire series. But it totally reminds me of that because they grow up in a world where they don't know what color is. So it's like, oh, it's such a good series. I found out they were making a movie and I was like very excited about it. And then, you know, I mean, I still saw the movie and I thought I like Jeff Bridges. And I like everybody in the movie.
I'll have to check out the books then.
Yeah, no, the books are great, and there's 4 books, but it's all about like everybody creates a world because they knew bad things were happening and they want to simplify it and make the world better. But then when other people don't experience the entire part of the world, good, bad, and everything, then bad things start happening because nobody has a full perspective. But they didn't know about color, they didn't know about all of that stuff. So how do you know what's right or wrong, or how to respond to something if you don't even know it exists, which is kind of like psychopaths.
Absolutely.
And then you also have, you know, the whole, again, you know, going back to, you know, good and evil is also relative. People who do, anybody that throughout history that we've considered to be evil or bad, they didn't think of themselves as evil.
Well,
they thought that they were doing good.
Learn history from another country or another group of people, and they'll have a completely different depiction of who is evil and good in the story. So.
Yep.
Another
This is
question.
why we like to be actors. And this is why we like to be playing villains sometimes.
Yes.
People go, you're like, you ask anybody who played a villain, they'll go, I'm sorry, he didn't do anything wrong. Where's my story?
Another question. Akane.
What do you think about Akane's psychopaths really never getting high, even though when terrible things happen? Do you think she's one of the ones where it doesn't show up high and someone control it?
She's a robot.
She's totes a robot. She's an android. I've always thought that it's just because she accepts what's going on as, like she never thinks of somebody as guilty, is the thing. Akane never really sees someone with, unless they're absolutely doing horrible things like what, oh my god, what's his name? The villain. Makishima, thank you. Like what Makishima does in the first season, you know, all that horrible things that he's doing, like that, and she gets righteously angry when she knows something is completely wrong. But for the most part, like there's so many different characters or people where they'll have a high psychopath, but she thinks, okay, well, this person is just as much a victim as maybe the person they hurt, or you know, is just as much a victim as anybody else, or that I could be. And so I think it's just that she has she sees everything as gray instead of black and white, which the civil system does. It's everything is black and white. Yeah, she's insanely empathetic. So I think that maybe that apathy is what kind of protects her from her psychopaths going on.
It's like, I wonder if she found that if that's her way to like cheat the system. Where she's like, it is what it is. I always have to remain calm and help as I can. Which I feel like I am the opposite of that. I'm like, I want to help. If I find something I'm passionate about, I want to help it. I want to put all of my energy to it. Whereas if I was just like, you know what, I'll do what I can today, and then I'll let it go. If I like just, like if we never got super excited or super angry or super passionate, we're like, I'm going to do what I can, I'm going to help who I can, I'm going to go through my life and enjoy it, there would probably be a lot of people not causing some issues.
Yeah, at some point. But then at the same time, you could also argue that if most people were generally apathetic, then that just leaves room for more people to take advantage of that.
Not like apathetic necessarily, but like you could be empathetic in helping people, but not so. I feel like sometimes we'll get so passionate about something that we get like
Lost.
And we get angry, and that consumes us.
You cease to be able to see the full picture at
Right,
that point.
because you're so
Invested in
you're
one part.
isolated. You got tunnel vision. So I feel like she does not have tunnel vision. She's like, okay, I see what they see, but I know there's nothing I can do about it. And if her psychopath, she knows that if she did allow herself to get too excited, she wouldn't be able to help anybody. She'd be out. because I would make sure of that. My character, not me.
And again, I think also, like, you know, whenever, I think a lot of it also has to do with she doesn't really think about revenge. Like, when she does, you know, she gets super angry or she sees all these horrible things that would make anybody else's psychopaths go up, she doesn't let those things affect her the way that most people do. Instead, she just sees, oh, this was something horrible that happened and it's bad that it happened, and I have to do what I can to make it right, if I can. But she doesn't, like you said, she doesn't go super passionate about it.
Yeah.
She suddenly, she's not going to have the thoughts of like, I need to kill this person because of what they did, or I need to get revenge for this person, or anything like that.
She doesn't take it upon herself to right the situation.
Yeah, she just does what she can in the moment.
Right.
So, yeah, she's an awesome character. Yes, right, Nikki.
On a personal level, how do you feel about the enforcers being treated like dogs?
I hate it. I mean, it's part of the story that, you know, it makes you really feel for them.
Yeah.
But I mean, again, I think that again is just another example of how, and just the way that they're treated, just because a system of justice decided that they are no longer worthy of being considered part of society. Everybody else, just not only for their own sakes and to keep themselves protected, has to follow the crowd and treat them like that too. And yeah,
Yeah, and it infuriates me. Just because, I mean, I get infuriated. As an actor, we're judged every single day based on appearance, based on what our voice sounds like. So I have a real issue with anybody being judged. I also went to high
Apparently
school.
what kind of shoes we're wearing.
I know. So, and I also went to high school, which is a place that we all know is filled with judgment, and I don't like that. So I was furious about that. And I'm playing a character who is one of the worst, which was difficult for me. But what I loved about how the show depicted that is Lindsay's character, which I can't remember what her name was right now, but Lindsay's character is one of those people who's treated horribly, and my character adores her. And it's one of the few people that she trusts in the show. So I like that they didn't make my character like an absolute, which she kind of says, like, I don't deal with them. Really? Because what about this person over here? Which is always my favorite thing to say to people anytime someone says, like, you know, this group of people over here, I hate them. But your friend's one of those people. Well, my friend's different. They're all different. They all have their own story.
Yeah.
So that's frustrating to me. It's like people are very quick to make a judgment without getting to know what all those people are dealing with. Everybody has a story, everybody has experience.
Without asking questions, or at least trying to put themselves into the other person's shoes.
Yeah.
Try to think, like, oh, okay, well, this is what they like. I wonder what happened in their life that led them to being who they are right now. Like, what led them to having the perspectives on the world that they have, or what they like, or anything like that. And
Yeah.
it's all about your experiences and how they've made you who you are.
Right.
And people don't take that into consideration.
Because they're too clouded by their own.
Yep.
So.
You just look like you have your answer. Yes.
With the civil systems development, how do you?
We had a hard time saying it in the booth too.
Yeah.
How do you think those who were once neutral to the system, not affected, will react now that it does redone?
I don't know, man. Like, and then I'm assuming you're talking about like just anybody who's never been read by the civil system in general, which would, as far as I know about the world, about the story of the world, Japan is the only place in Psycho-Pass that has that system. Everywhere else is still normal.
Well, I'm referring to those that are unaffected by the system.
Oh, the ones, okay, so like Makishima and stuff
Yes.
like that. Like how? So your question again, one more time, please.
With the civil systems development, how do you think those who weren't affected by the civil system will react now that they are able to be scanned?
There's some pretty smart, scary people
I was
out
gonna
there.
say.
Like they'd find a way, and
More
even if they couldn't think of a way to
More
beat it,
helmets.
if
More
they couldn't
helmets.
think of a way to beat it just then, they have an entire world they can run away to.
Yeah.
They can run away from the civil system
Until they know.
until they can figure out a way to come back and beat it. Which, you know,
The
it's gonna
mind-
happen.
The mind is a super powerful thing, and it's fascinating to me that people are like, you only use a small, minute percentage of your brain.
It's BS.
Yeah, don't put that,
It's
no.
working the entire time.
But what I'm saying is like, how many things are we that are working that we are not fully utilizing to their max capacity?
Right, like how much of what your brain is using is all subconscious and
Right,
automatic,
right.
and what part of it are you actually
And if we could
influencing?
tap into that, which I wonder if some of these people that were neutral to, if they could figure out how to tap into that and like beat the system, then, and I'm sure there are people now that are so highly, I don't know,
Yeah.
intelligent in that way that they would figure out how to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's always going to be, and someone at some point is going to be born that even the new new and improved civil system won't be able to read or won't be able to detect in any way. Like, people change.
Well, even now, like, we can, acting is a perfect example, but other people, if you tell someone something so many times that is completely untrue, but they live in an isolated world where they start to believe it, that they believe that to be their reality. So if somebody was trying to beat the system and they just lived in an isolated world where they told themselves, I am neutral, would they be able to beat the system?
Or if they were raised in such a way that they were taught that
That is
all of the
normal.
horrible things, like all these horrible things, that they're doing, like killing people or torturing people, it's like, oh, it's totally, there's nothing wrong with that. That's nothing to feel guilty about or feel ashamed
Yeah,
about.
I don't
And like,
think that would cloud
how,
someone's
yeah, exactly.
psychopath.
It's like how much of that innate, how much of what we consider to be morality is innate and just in us from birth, and how much of it is something that you learn is the question.
It could be a little bit of both.
Yeah, I think it is definitely both.
We just don't know for sure. It's philosophy. Yes.
How do you think the civil system handles sociopath, psychopath, basically people with lack of emotions, or registered emotions?
Wait, what do you want?
How do you think the civil system handles people that have no emotional state or just have no emotions whatsoever? Because that's the thing, though. I'm not sure if it's necessarily reading emotional states as much as it is real. But then again, no, that would completely throw away everything that I was just saying. I have no idea. But what kind of person would not feel emotions at all?
I think everybody's feeling emotions, but like you said, if somebody's doing something that would cause an emotional response, like watching someone get murdered, that would cause an emotional response. But for these people, if they see it over and over and over and over again, it no longer causes an emotional response. Therefore, you'd be like, they have no emotions. They did at one time. It's been drilled out of them.
Yeah.
Pretty much that's how a sociopath works.
Well, some sociopaths are born innately where things just, their mind does not click that way.
Yeah.
I've heard stories about like young kids that will do something and people will go, how did they think that was okay? But their brain is wired differently, whatever the synapses are, however, it's different.
Yeah. We're all biological machines that, sometimes the programming's different when you grow up or just after you're born. Another question. Everything's coming from up here. We got to step up our game over here. Oh, okay, hang on. We'll come back to you. Yes.
Say that one more time. I'm sure Guinozo loves tomato soup because it's neutral. It's a neutral soup.
I felt like tomato soup was just going to appear in front of me.
I know, right?
like out of the table.
Would you like some?
Like a Mary Poppins bag. Like
Out of the
right
hat,
here.
just-
Yeah.
It's Campbell's.
He does. In fact, here you are.
Was that a Tales of Zillia reference? Okay, thank you. That's what I thought. Love it. Yes, ma'am.
How did you feel when you found out what the civil system was made of?
I thought that I was like, well, of course it is. Of course it's of course. It's brilliant, because who else would know the signs to look for but those people and those minds? But at the same time, don't you think that maybe they'd be able to take advantage of that in some way?
Wait, so they didn't? My character obviously was shocked because she's a rule follower. Wants to believe that everybody, when they say they're going to do something, or when they say this is why something's happening, that their word means something. That is not always the case. And I was skeptical from the beginning. And the other thing that I said is, look, if Chris Sabat's playing a character, there's something going on.
Yeah.
I don't trust that.
Nope, I don't trust that character at all. Sounds like Sabat. Nope. He's up to something.
Trouble.
Trouble.
Mr. Prankster King himself. Yes, ma'am.
So in your personal opinion, if our world was like it is in Psycho-Pass, and we were in first season, would you want one of the helmets to like make it neutral because like maybe if you're driving and you have like road rage or...
Oh my God, I would need to live in the thing.
I would need one of those as well. I mean, we're actors, and half the times that we do something, they'd be like, people would be getting called to us every day, like, you need to chill out. And as soon as we finish a session, all that stuff is still like floating around. We're still super energized. We'd be like hanging out at the studio, like, can't go anywhere. Gotta hang out for a while. Like, nothing would ever get done. But at the same time, I would be afraid if I put on that helmet that over time it would start making it so that I didn't feel things anymore.
Right.
And I would not like that. I like feeling things. Like, I like emotion.
I like feeling. Like, yeah, I mean, I can't really add anything to that. Those helmets, but...
I'd also
And I
have
could see-
helmet hair.
Exactly, all the time. So that would be the thing to worry about.
Yeah.
For sure.
Another question. You, sir, right here.
What was your favorite part of the show to work on?
Oh, God.
Favorite part of the show to work on? Definitely, like, okay, my favorite scene in season 1, and no, that could be very spoilery. Who here has not seen Psycho-Pass? Okay. Okay, pretty good portion. Okay, well then, have you seen it? Okay, that moment. For Gino's, that big moment where he finally is able to let all of his guard down when
yes,
he put, that moment. And that was super hard for me, but it was also such a relief because, like you, I generally am a very feeling person.
Yeah.
Like I'm very in touch with my emotions. Sometimes they're a little too out of control.
Uh-huh.
But to have to play a character who is so afraid of his emotions because of what it could lead to, because he's seen what out of control emotions could lead to in his comrade, not only his comrades but family.
Yeah.
He's so terrible. Like the only emotion you ever really see from him is anger and like impatience and anger and irritation. And that's only if he really is not trying hard. For the rest of the time, he's just always in control. Everything, like he comes across as being almost emotionless. And then after that moment, everything changes. And then in season 2, he's a completely different person. And like just going on that journey, total is my favorite part of that show, and getting to play games. So.
There were a lot of really fun moments. I really enjoy overall when characters get to the point where they like to research or like sleuth things out and go in rooms or places where they're not supposed to be. So that moment in season 2, when she starts finding things out and putting the pieces together and all that, that was very exciting. Just the process of how we recorded season 2 was unlike how we've recorded any other show, because it was one of the first simulcast dubs that we did. And we would get one episode. Maybe, I think there, at one point I had 4, which is very rare. So as soon as things, and that show, every episode you'd be like, more!
Yeah, give me more. What happens next?
And so like,
no, next
we'd
week.
be like, yeah,
Dang
they're,
it.
they're like, we can't, and I go, this is just like as if we were watching the show where they're like, find out next week. And you're like, I hate you!
That's it?
Yeah.
No!
And then I would ask the director, I was like, well, what happens? He goes, I don't know. I'm like, don't lie to me. Because they always say things like that to me.
Yeah,
They'll be
I
like,
don't know.
I don't know
I
what
hear
happened.
that's the thing with
But he
simul dubs.
legitimately does not know, which was the worst.
Yeah.
They also, during that show, which was really fun, when we would preview it, they would leave the mic on to get our reactions when things would happen.
Yeah.
And I hope they release that reaction reel.
Me too. I loved hearing them, like, especially because it's Chubbs. It's Chris George and Zach. Those guys are a hoot. It's like having Chris and Bevins back together.
Totally,
Again. Like,
yeah.
it feels like home. But I love the fact that, sometimes they would record people's reactions to like somebody getting blown away by the Dominator. Like they were one of the very first deaths you ever see in the first episode. They got a whole bunch of reactions. So like they would just, hey, just watch this scene. And they would record and not tell them that they were. And people would get their reactions. Like almost everyone that came in before, like they were saying like, well, it's been 50-50. Almost all the women that have seen him just been like, oh my God, that's horrible. And then there's a couple that are just like, yes. And most of the guys are just like, dude, that's amazing. And then you hear like me or Ken Williams just going, oh, that's sad.
Mine was always like, I think there were a couple times where I was like, dude, that is no, the puppy. I had a meltdown. I was like, don't you dare! I hate this show! And they were like, Cherami, it's okay. I was like, it's not okay. Not okay.
So did you ever feel that way watching like Homeward Bound as a kid?
I was the kid that I would tell my mom, I'd be like, just turn it off before it gets rough.
Yeah.
I'm like this 5-year-old, my mom's like, Cherami, you've seen it only to this point. We gotta watch it through at this point. I'm like, just don't. I hated it. Even Homeward Bound, I was also the kid that was like, don't leave!
You don't leave him!
You won't find it! You won't get back!
Come on, puppy! Michael J. Fox, puppy, stay home!
The cat was my favorite.
Chance.
Michael
I was always like, Chance, you get everybody in so much trouble.
Dang it, Chance.
Stop it! That was our feelings on Homeward Bound.
Yep. Yes.
Is there a character other than your own that you relate to in any way?
Your character.
Yeah?
I would not be able to do the whole, like, keeping my emotions together.
Yeah.
Just a little bit of an emotional basket.
Basket case.
Yeah.
We're emotional. We're actors. We're emotional basket case. We make a living off of being a basket case. Probably.
Oh my God. What's his name?
Who?
With the robot arm.
Matsuoka?
Thank you, Masaoka. Masaoka, yeah. I really feel connected with him. He was the type of person that, because he's been through it, and he had been, like as an enforcer, he had been through the civil system. He had, he'd worked the job before as an investigator, and he was awesome at it. But eventually, after seeing everything, job hazard, basically, he loses his humanity, his right to be a citizen, basically, because he worked so hard for them.
Dude has a robot arm.
Yeah, he's seen some stuff. He's got this Skywalker syndrome going on. But he, even after all that, he takes it in stride. Like, he's just like, okay, well, you know what? This is my life. This is the way things work out. This is the way the world works. And you can either roll with the punches or you can complain about it. And that's the way he rolls now. And it works for him.
It's probably the only way that you're going to be able to survive in that world.
Yeah.
Like, man, this sucks, but you gotta make do.
That's what I gotta do.
You pick someone.
You, with the blue hair.
Has recording started on the movie yet?
No. Like, we're not even sure we have the rights to it yet.
Yeah.
Like, Funny may not have the rights to it yet. So, I'm sure they'll announce it when they do. They usually do.
We know nothing.
Yeah.
Having worked on Psycho Pass 2, what is your opinion on it compared to the original?
Compared to Psycho Pass 1, what are our thoughts on Psycho Pass 2? I think that it definitely it picks up the pace more. Like we've took that whole season, not only set up the characters, especially Ahhh, but we've set up the world, we've set up, its limitations, its boundaries. Now let's screw with those limitations and boundaries, and they're just, they went full kilt, like from the word go in season 2, and it was just a wild ride. I think it's definitely the more engaging, I think, of the 2 seasons. It keeps you kind of, to me, it held my attention a little bit more at an end.
I got it. I mean, I did not have a huge role in 1, so definitely for me, I felt more involved in 2, so I felt it held my attention more, but that's probably just because I was in it, and everything that was happening for my character was escalating, and so I had no choice but to be fully engaged. And then I think for me, it's like, how can this get any worse? And they'd be like, oh, like this. And, yeah, exactly.
R.I.P. the puppy.
This deal's getting
Somebody
worse
should
all
say
the time.
puppy.
I know. But now it's like,
Too young,
well,
too
I
soon.
guess for me it's kind of the same way, because in season 1, Ginoza pretty much keeps himself separated from everything. Emotionally, like he doesn't, like the only thing he invests in is his job.
But whenever he's handling those situations or he's seeing something else that's just horrible or whatever, he tries to just think of it. Oh, this is just another day on the job. He doesn't let himself get emotional about it. He doesn't let himself get impassioned or inflamed about one thing or the other. It's just a job. And so he kind of views everything, I think, through that lens in the first season. Whereas, well, this is just same stuff, different day. Yeah. And whereas in season 2, that's gone, and he's invested completely, not only in everything that's going around him, but more specifically in Akane, because he really believes in her and he has a lot of faith in her. Yeah.
Another question? Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so how do you feel about how they took away real guns from the civil service? Because I know, like, if there's a neutral person that can't actually get them, and they know it is a neutral person, how do you feel about them taking away real guns?
Like, that I actually thought was one of the coolest parts of the show. It's like, not only can, well, I mean, because, Japan right now, guns are illegal. Guns have been illegal. You cannot personally own a firearm in Japan. And, like, most servicemen, like cops and security guards, they're not issued firearms. So that just kind of seems like an extension of that system, where it's not only are actual guns completely eliminated, now only the privileged few can wield these things, because only the civil system allows people to recognize is to shoot them. So like that in itself, I think is a glorious. That would be kind of a pretty cool step in the right direction, I think. Of hey, let's just get rid of all firearms and just make one. Well, but at the same time, then you put that into way too much power in just some people's hands. So yeah, it's back and forth.
Why can't people just be nice?
Yeah, really.
Can we please stop shooting each other?
Just don't be mean in general.
Let's replace.
Don't stab anybody. Don't say mean things to anybody. Don't pick on anybody. Don't shoot anybody. Just stop it.
How about this?
Just go eat a cupcake.
Only one
Cupcakes for all. How about this? How about the moment someone can hold something of that caliber, let's just give everybody water guns. Everyone in the world.
Like that.
Everyone in the world gets a water gun.
But then you have somebody who's going to be a jerk face. He's going to be like, I'm going to put acid in it or something.
It's like, how about a gun filled with Montezuma's revenge?
There's always somebody who's going to try to be a jerk.
Yeah.
Stop it.
Here's dirty sewer water in your face.
Although that would be hilarious to be like, you've done wrong.
Halt! Super soaker action. This is gonna hurt.
You better run.
I'm giving it to the count of 5. 5 pumps
1,
and then
2,
you're
3,
soaked.
4.
Man.
It's only funny until somebody gets water in their eye.
Then it's hilarious.
Not for the person with water in their eye, then it hurts.
Yeah. It burns, especially if it's got chlorine in it. Super soakers these days too. It's just like this pumps at 20 pounds per gallon.
And then this is the other thing that I saw. Like, of course, it's right after Hunger Games. They have those the little foam darts with the bow and arrow. My cousin got one of those, and I was like, "Oh, this is awesome!" She shot me with one of them. I was like, "This is what? Are they weighted? Like, this is a foam dart. Don't do this at people anymore."
Yeah.
I had like a bruise, and she was like, she was like, "Oh." I go, it has a sticky thing at the end. You're supposed to shoot it at a window, not at a human.
Unless they're wearing glasses, then you shoot them.
They miss it. It goes up their nose.
Yeah. Sorry. You should have taken your glasses off.
Children's toys are dangerous.
Children's toys have always been dangerous. Do you remember
Just
those?
if they eat them.
They used to have, I can't remember what it was, but it was essentially like a hair iron. It was like, this thing, you plug it into a wall and it gets super hot. I wonder how many houses are going to burn down. This is for children 6 and up.
On carpet, they like plug it in, come back, they're like, I burned a hole in the floor. Like,
sorry.
That happened.
Any other questions? Yes.
I know you touched on it in the last panel and a little bit in this one. I'm just really interested about the simuldubs and how that process is different from what you used to. Has it become more streamlined or whatever as you continue to do them? And do they go back before it comes out on DVD and redo anything and clean it up? Or just how does that whole thing work?
Do you have anything on it?
I mean, the difference as far as what I saw, is we normally get about 5 to 6 episodes for a regular show in a contract. So when they book us for sessions, if we're not a huge character or it's a light line count, we do all 5 episodes in a day in a session. So we know how many hours, we know what we're going to be saying in those episodes. With Simuldub, we have 1 episode, so we could have like 800 lines 1 episode, which would be absurd. So we probably have like 200 lines. And then the next episode, we might have 2.
Yeah.
So like that's really hard for booking an actor to come in when I guess isn't the average like 35 an hour?
Like 35 lines an hour?
35 lines an
Yeah,
hour.
it's like something like, it's like 35 lines an hour. I think it's our usual
So,
recording speed.
so if anybody gets called and they only have 1 line, it makes it really hard because they're like, well, we're just paying somebody to come in for 1 line. We usually have to have them working on another show.
Yeah.
So if they have 1 line, we're like, hey, can you jump in and record this line in this week?
Yeah.
So it makes scheduling really rough.
Yeah,
Um,
very costly.
yeah, it's costly.
And I think, yeah, I mean, just from the actor standpoint, it's actually, I think, been kind of cool.
Totally.
With the exception of, like, having to travel from out of town for some people. But, like, for those that are local, it's great because if you're on several shows at once, instead of, waiting between contracts, to do the next set, now you're just doing an episode, like 4 episodes a week. And you're just coming back in. There's not really a lull in the amount of time. It's like, okay, well, I recorded this month, and now I have to wait for the rest of the month or until next month to do the rest. Now it's just every week.
You might not have as many hours in that week,
Yeah.
but you are consistently getting more.
Yes. On the writing and directing and pretty much everything else, it is insanely different from what we're used to working with. Because normally, when we're going in to direct a show, we've already seen the entire thing. Like, the entire thing is already out. Like Attack on Titan, we waited until the entire show was out before we ever started even writing scripts. We probably started writing scripts before the last couple of episodes aired, but we didn't record it until everything was done. And so we knew everything that was going to happen. We had all these references. We had everything that we needed in order to make sure that everything we were doing was correct. With the simuldubs, it's no longer the case, because now not only do we have to get these shows out as quickly as possible, but we have no idea like what's going to happen with some of these characters, and that can lead to that means that we have to be even more careful with our writing. Like, one of the big challenges with doing ADR scripting is the fact that even if you have the entire show, there's always going to be moments where the stuff that's being said, or in the translation, or what they're talking about, like the references they're making, or maybe a joke that they're making, is not going to translate to an English-speaking audience. And so we have to try to figure out a way to make that work. And if you don't have all of the knowledge of the show beforehand, that limits you even more. Now we can't try to make a reference to something that happened earlier or that happens, further. Or, yeah, you might find it's a recurring reference, and then you've just completely screwed that entire thing. Sometimes I'll give you an example. There was one show that we did where the way that the translation was written, it was just kind of unclear. But this dude was off screen, had no flaps, and he's saying to this character, "Hey, take this sword. It served me well, and it should serve you well." What we found out 3 or 4 episodes later, when that character finally came back, was it was not sword, it was swords. And that completely, we had already aired it on the simulcast, so it's a very minor thing, but at least at first, but then all of a sudden, no, this character is big, and it's the fact that it's 2 swords, each one of those swords has a story, and it's very important that they say swords instead of just sword, blade, blades, anything like that. And just little things like that can completely end up messing up a scene or end up messing up a story further down the road.
That's not just the writer, that's the translator, that's making sure that everything is clear with them.
Yep.
So is that something you might go in before it would come out on
DVD and fix?
that up?
Yes, ma'am, absolutely. That's pretty much been our plan, I believe, is that if there are, because this is the first time that we've ever tried to do it. This is the first time anyone in the anime industry ever, in the entire time it's existed, has ever tried to do something like this. And while we showed that we could do it with Space Dandy, and we're showing that we can continue to do it with some of these shows,
it's far from being any sort of streamlined process. It's still something that we're kind of
Trial
working.
and error.
Yeah, trial and error. We're working the kinks out. A lot of people right now in the studio, like we for the last few years, we've only been recording from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Now we're recording from 10 to 10. And we have a new staff. We have some new directors coming in. We have new engineers, just so that we can keep this ball rolling. Because not only do we have all these simuldub shows that we're now trying to crank out, we have this entire backlog of a bunch of straight to DVD releases that are full seasons that we also need to do and start putting out. So, because everybody is working a lot right now. Directors are having to, not only are they, working on the shows at the studio, they're going home and immediately they're watching the next few episodes, or they're watching the scripts, and they're watching the shows that they just directed today to try to figure out, okay, let's make sure we didn't screw anything up today, and if we did, let's fix it tomorrow, and just keep doing that. Like, there's almost no downtime now.
Yeah.
Everybody is just constantly going.
And most of the directors are also actors as well, so they're working on that show or other shows. So, I mean, people will be like, do you watch any anime that, you're not working on? Like, and it's like, we don't have time.
Yeah, we don't have time anymore. It's definitely new. I think that is a step in the right direction, especially with the way that the internet has changed the way that we view entertainment and the way that we view media. I think that, it's the way of the future. That's the way that this industry needs to go if it's going to survive in the future. I just hope that my big concern overall is that we lose quality because we're doing these things so fast. When you don't have enough time.
Well, also when you don't know the full story.
Yeah.
It's hard to act. I mean, like, just in life, you'll go, I made that choice, and had I known early on that this was going to happen, like, when you're writing a movie or when you're doing a film, yes, your character can't know what's happening, but you as the actor have to know, like, all right, this arc has to happen because of XYZ. The director has to know what kind of reads he's getting, because we don't have each other to act opposite of. I think that might make it easier if everybody was in a room. But that's not possible.
Yeah, it's
class.
Yeah, and not only that, but it's getting any actors in a room at one place without scheduling them is like herding cats to begin with. You try to trying to work through the headache of scheduling 5 to 6 or more actors to come in at one given time, and for all of them to be able to be on and fit flaps and get everything. Like, it's not economically sound. Yeah, it is hard enough with one. But yeah, there's so many things going on right now that are different about it. It's
exciting.
It is exciting, and there's a lot of growing pains that we're having to go through I think until we find a comfortable place where we're like, okay, this is like the process that we can do to make sure that we not only get it done when we need to, but make sure that everything is quality. That really is just my concern overall, is that because we're going so fast, we're just potentially going to lose out on the quality of the writing, the quality of the directing, the quality of the acting, just because we have to spend so much time just making sure that the flaps and everything else and the writing that's in there is making sense. We don't have time, it feels sometimes, to make sure we get the best reads.
Well, and I think what's also going to be interesting, as what I'm aware of anyway, most of the simuldubs are smaller casts as of this moment.
For the most part, there's some of them that are
So we're now moving into bigger casts?
There's some that are pretty big casts.
Because, if we ran into, like, a fairy tale simulcast or a One Piece simulcast, I think people would shoot someone.
Yeah.
That's too many people to track.
And that's the other thing. Because we don't know, with these shows coming out, because we don't have the ability to say, okay, we know who this character is, exactly what their role is going to be throughout the entire series.
Right.
This is how we know we can use this person and that they'll do this. Now they're having to be very careful about how they cast the people that they consider to be veterans, or the people that have been doing this for so long that they can practically do it in their sleep. Like, use those people sparingly, because now, if they, like with you, they cast Cherami's role in Psycho-Pass, initially because we thought it was a bit part.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden she's one of the supporting leads in the second season, and like, what happens if we cast what looks like a bit part that in the translation initially, because that's the other thing, we get the Japanese scripts for the translation, sometimes they don't mark characters that are going to come back as any sort of particular character. For us, it's just random person, and so we're like, okay, we'll give this person a voice. Oh my God, they just became a lead. And
what show, I can't even remember what show it was, because Zach said that in the Japanese, they did the first episode. You were introduced to an entire lead cast. At the end of that episode, they all got killed.
Every single one of them.
And it wasn't a simuldub, thank God,
Yeah,
because
this was
Zach
years
would have
back.
cried. But Zach said, I want to mess with the audience.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm casting Monica, Cherami, Tatum,
Grelle,
me,
and
like
others.
all these people at that main cast, so people go like, yeah, that's the main cast. They've done leads before. And the end of the first episode, we all got killed. And so then he got an entirely new cast, and I was like, that is the coolest thing ever. I thought that was so much fun to work on. But if that happens in a simuldub, like you go, I just scored this cast, I feel really strongly about them, and then you have all these veteran actors that were like, do you hate me?
Yeah.
Like, I'm dead now. What did I do wrong? But yeah, because that's terrifying.
Like, yeah, there's.
And I know Tyler has told me that for Fairy Tale, that he's gone, well, this is like, 2 lines here, whatever else, and then like 100 episodes later, you find out that this is like a major villain, that this voice they had before was just a facade, and then his real voice is really deep, and he's like, this actor can't do that.
Yeah, now they have
They're
to
not
recast.
and that's the thing that sucks, and you don't know for a simuldub. You can find out next week, like, it's nothing against you, but you can't sing, and this character now has 19 songs.
We're gonna find someone who
Sorry.
can voice match you and sing the songs for you.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, I mean, it's like we were talking about, in the last panel, stunt belches.
Yeah.
But there was
you
one
just
person.
don't know.
We had an actor who could not belch on command, like couldn't do one of those belts, and the character needed to have a full-on belch, so they just brought in, they had like a
We
day
had
of auditions for people who could belch. To do a stunt belch, just for this
Wouldn't
one
it be
time,
alive?
this one part of this character.
And I remember, I can't remember who got cast, but I do remember that person for like 3 weeks was like, you're welcome, everybody. We got every voice actor in, and I'm the only one who can do it. Like, and I remember we were all like, okay, congratulations. Don't drink a Dr. Pepper.
Another question.
Yeah, I just want to give you a heads up and probably one more question.
One more?
We made this like an entire cycle.
I know, we did. That's rock on.
We didn't think this was going to happen.
Leave me hanging.
I'm sorry. I was like, good job, everyone.
You pick.
Oh, no. Last question. Okay.
We can try to make them really fast. Like, you haven't asked a question yet, so.
Okay,
and
this
then
section
you.
towards the simul dubbing is to you, Josh.
Okay.
Was it the same way for Diabolic Lovers, the latest one that you've done as Subaru Sakamaki? Was that the same way? Was
Actually,
that
no.
simul-dubbing?
Because-
I noticed the way that they talk really fast in that is like, it sounds similar to the way the simul dubs seem to go.
Uh-huh.
And like some of the veteran actors are getting some of the names wrong, and it just,
That actually was on a Funimation show. That was a Sentai show.
Oh, okay.
And that was Diabolic Lovers was literally, I had just finished recording 4 days, like 8 to 12 hours on season 2 of Infinite Stratus.
Okay.
And I just happened to, I finished like 2 or 3 hours ahead of schedule. And so Janice Williams, who was directing Diabolic Lovers, was like, hey, I have a character I think you can play. And I literally, playing Subaru took me all of an hour, maybe.
Okay.
If that. And so, like, I mean, and that's the other thing, too, the way that Sentai handles it. Like, a lot of the reason why I think we're doing simuldubs is because we needed to go a little bit faster because Sentai was putting out stuff. And I've worked for Sentai for a while, too. Sentai started putting stuff out so fast because the Japanese were like, no, we need it out as fast as possible, as fast as possible. And whoever over there was buying the things was like, no, totally, we could do that. And so, like, we literally, like, for about a year and a half, we had a section, like, I was writing scripts for them. We didn't write scripts. We got the translation. I time-coded them and marked the Foley, which is anytime a character goes, or anything like that. Marked all those things, and then they had to rewrite the translation on the fly as they were recording those shows. And they had to put they were doing 13 to 14 episode things with no script and having to record them in a week to 2 weeks, and then put them out have them mixed and put out on DVD within a month or so. Like, to me, while they did figure out what they needed to do for the longest time, and I think Diabolic Lovers kind of shows that, they lost a lot of quality. There was a lot of quality control that was lost.
Because a lot of the names are said wrong, and they talk way too fast, and they're adding like words to certain sentences where it could just be like.
Yeah, lots of just ridiculous filler words.
But I mean, they're like,
Yeah, I mean, and it's not necessarily about, whether or not they've been in the booth for how long. Like, it's sometimes, there's veterans that have been working with us in years, and they just don't, they don't watch anime in their free time, or they don't know Japanese language enough to know that, okay, that's how the vowels work, this is how these sound. And so at that point, it falls to the writer or the director or the producer. They have to say, this is how you pronounce it right. So if it slips through, it's the director's fault. And I say that as someone who is a director now.
Because there have been times that I've said certain names and people have been like, you said that wrong, and I'm like, the director told me this is how we were going with it, and this is how the Japanese wanted it pronounced here. And I'm not somebody who likes to tell the director, like, I'm not saying it that way.
Right.
Because their response will be, cool, we'll find someone else to say it the way I want to say it.
Like, if given more time, I think Avos Lovers would have been a really good animated dub. It's just the way how fast it came out, it didn't sound right, because they were talking really, really fast in some parts. It's like, you have to say that fast.
Right, and just to play devil's advocate a bit, one of the only reasons why we are having to put stuff out this fast is because people kept demanding that it come out faster. Faster. Because if they didn't, they would just torrent it. They would steal it. They'd go to YouTube and watch a fan sub, or they'd do whatever, and then no money went back to the Japanese studios. That's why we lost like 3 major production studios in Japan over the course of the last decade, including Gonzo. We lost Gonzo because people were not buying their shows. They were stealing everything. And and then they keep saying, well, I mean, if you guys would just put it out faster, we wouldn't steal it. If we put it out faster, and then we put it out faster, and we're like, well, the dub sucks, so we're still gonna steal it. And it's like, okay, we can't win with you people. It's like,
I mean, common sense people, please.
yeah, it's just like a little bit of common sense. Like, as a fan, yeah, I hated growing up and having to wait a year and a half between freaking laser discs just so I could get the next 2 episodes of Slayers with no extras, or waiting with no extras, or waiting 3 or 4 months to get the next 3 episodes on VHS of Dragon Ball Z or whatever. It's like, yeah, that sucks. We're putting stuff out in a week or 2 now.
Well, and that's the other thing. I went to a con where somebody goes, can you tell them to work on amping up the extras? And I'm like, they're trying to write and direct as fast as possible, and you guys want extras? Okay.
And not only that, the Japanese won't let us do extras a lot of times. Like, we would love to be doing outtakes and stuff all the time, but unless it fits the show, the Japanese are like, no, that's disrespectful to the show. We don't want outtakes. Like, we don't want outtakes for Attack on Titan.
Stop having fun.
Or just like, I was like, okay, just like,
stop having fun.
Yeah, stop having fun. Everyone's dying. You're not supposed to be smiling. Exactly.
You should just say in Attack on Titan, have someone say it's just a flesh wound. Just
It's just a flesh wound. I would love that. Oh, it's gonna work in. You had real quick. You've been wanting to ask a question this whole panel. I'm so sorry.
Really quick. If you could be, would you want to be an investigator or an enforcer? And if you would want to be, would you be one of them without having your crime coefficient go crazy wild?
As an investigator, hell no. I would be an enforcer so fast, which I'm fine with because I would love to be an enforcer. Why the heck not?
I really like researching things, so I would say I would want to be an investigator, but I would not be able to keep that under control.
Good luck keeping that hue clear.
I don't think I could do either well.
And then again, too, it's like you have to be so insanely smart, overqualified, basically, before they even consider you to be an investigator.
Yeah.
Like in the story, it's like you have to have perfect scores, perfect everything, the best hue that they could possibly see, go through all these psychological tests and placement tests, because it's also very,
where you fit.
Yeah, it's not, I don't want to say, I can't remember exactly what
aptitude?
It's like an aptitude test, and everybody's placed where the system thinks they should be, and not really freedom to do whatever you want. Guys, thank you so much. This was an awesome Psychopaths panel. Thank you for your